It is my distinct honor to introduce to you the one and only Premier Doug Ford. He is Ontario's 26th Premier and the proud MPP of Etobicoke North. More than that, Premier Ford has become a Canadian champion, standing up immediately for this country as the U.S. threatened us with tariffs and a trade war. Premier Ford has earned praise and respect among Canadians, working across party lines with his provincial and federal colleagues to help further Canada's interests. He epitomizes what it means to be a team player, a Team Canada player, and he's been aptly characterized as a nationalist linebacker. Premier Ford has pushed for the removal of interprovincial trade barriers in order to enable workers, goods, and services to flow seamlessly between provinces. And he's rallied other premiers to finally get this done. As the current chair of the Council of the Federation, Premier Ford has represented Canada well. The Council is enabling premiers to work collaboratively, form close ties, and look at issues that are of interest and matter to all Canadians. Premier Ford is also a dedicated community leader, a successful businessman, and a passionate advocate for the people. His commitment to public life runs in the family. 3 generations of Fords have served Ontario in elected office. And speaking of elected office, let's not forget that he has won 3 consecutive majority governments. This election hat trick was achieved just this past February, making him the first Ontario Premier to do so since 1959. This is a remarkable achievement. Throughout his career, Premier Ford has demonstrated that he shows up, stands up, and speaks up for Ontarians and Canadians from all walks of life. To turn a line from my favorite Batman movie on its head, Premier Ford is the hero that we need and the one Canadians deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, please get on your feet and join me in giving a rousing welcome to Premier Doug Ford, the 26th Premier of Ontario.
Boy, that was such a nice, my goodness, thank you everyone. Boy, that was such a very kind introduction. So, Inez, thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. And, you know, the applause goes right back to you because I couldn't do my job if it wasn't for a lot of people in this room, and I'm very grateful. And I just want to acknowledge someone very close to me, Her Honor. Her Honor, it's always great to see you, and I know you're keeping busy, but we built up a very close relationship as Her Honor served the people, the longest serving Lieutenant Governor in the country. So again, great to see you, Your Honor. Boy, it was funny. So when I walk in this room, I'm looking around, I'm thinking, my goodness, I remember 38 years ago when my wife Carla and I were looking for a place to get married, and we came in this exact room, and I don't think I've been back in this room since then, but you know, I was a young buck when I got married, and I thought, this is way too expensive. I ended up at the old mill for $12,000 for 200 people. Now with 4 girls, you can't get a wedding under $100,000. And look at all the dads are out there saying, oh yeah, absolutely. Again, I just want to give a big thank you to Inez and Andre and everyone from the Public Policy Forum for hosting such a great event today. And I also want to thank, or I look forward, I should say, to sitting down with Michael and having a great little fireside chat. So I want to acknowledge Ontario's hardworking Secretary of Cabinet. I always call Michelle my boss because she's the Commander-in-Chief, Michelle D'Emmanuel. She runs the whole show, the top Ontario Public Service. And I always tell Michelle, I just love our OPS. it's not the people that need to change, it's the system that's been around since before Moses, that we've done it this way for 40 years and we're going to continue doing it. No, things have changed. But Michelle, thank you. I appreciate you taking my calls on Saturday, Friday nights, Sunday during the NFL, because I know Tony loves the NFL and I interrupt you all the time, but very special to me. Folks, this is a serious moment for the province and our country. For decades, we've relied on our relationship with the United States to drive our province's growth. Together, we built one of the most prosperous and successful economic partnerships in the entire world, based on mutual respect, cooperation, and trust. But as the last several months have showed, that trust is now gone. We will continue making the case at all levels of government in the United States, which we have, that we're stronger when we work together, when we build something called an AMCAN fortress, but we can no longer afford to have our economic success depend on such an unreliable partner. And I always say, differentiate ourselves between the American people, because Canadians love Americans and Americans love Canadians. There's one person, and that person is called President Trump. He's openly taking aim at Ontario's economy, threatening tariffs, disrupting supply chains, putting all of us at risk, including the American people. When I reach out, and I've reached out to endless governors and senators and congresspeople, Republican and Democrat, and I'll point out the Republicans, not one of them, behind closed doors, agree that attacking their closest friends and allies is beneficial to Americans. And I'll get into it when we sit down and have the fireside chat, but I guess he's put the fear of God into these people. But I do have to congratulate the 4 senators, Republican senators, that have come out. I know Senator Collins and Senator Mitch McConnell and Senator Paul Rand from Kentucky. I'll tell you one thing, I've learned a lot about alcohol. You can do anything, but don't mess with people's alcohol, especially in Kentucky on the bourbon or here in Ontario. I'll tell you, that's very close to people's heart. So, but I want to thank, and I'm sorry, there's one more senator in Michigan, I just blanked out on the name. But slowly, hopefully, if we don't get this resolved, more and more will start coming out and speaking out. In response, we need to do everything in our power as Ontarians and as Canadians to become as resilient, and that's the word resilient, and self-reliant as possible. See, we've put all our eggs in one basket over the years, and we're changing that now, and I'll explain that as we move forward. We need to tear down red tape, unlock our resources, unleash our economy, and make Ontario and Canada the best place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. We need to stand on our own 2 feet so we can protect Ontario both from the immediate tariff threat and decades to come. And that's exactly what our government is doing. First, we're tearing down barriers that stop free trade within Canada and cost our national economy $200 billion every single year. You know, isn't it amazing how we can trade with the United States, we can trade with 51 other tariff-free countries, but we cannot ship a bottle of wine from Ontario, from Niagara region, out to BC. And the list goes on. But it's over $200 billion. It would increase our GDP anywhere from 7 to 8%. Matter of fact, the free trade agreement here in Canada is even greater than the tariffs we're facing against the United States. Earlier this month, we introduced historic new legislation to make it easier for people from the rest of Canada to buy and sell and work in Ontario. And we're inviting every single province and territory to join us. In fact, We've already signed agreements with New Brunswick and Nova Scotia to support free trade and movement among our provinces. And the other provinces are coming along one after the other. I'm getting phone calls because it's common sense. No one wants to be left behind. We're also unlocking our critical minerals, including the Ring of Fire. Ontario's blessed to have tens of billions in untapped minerals, which the world needs, which are absolutely essential for everything, no matter if it's our military or aerospace, our electric vehicles, to cell phones. And people don't realize this, but we're getting the message out more and more. Yet right now in Ontario, it takes up to 15 years just to get a permit and open a mine. Well, the rest of the world is getting permits in a year, in 2 years. It's taking 15 years. And I have to tell you a quick story. I get a phone call the other day from a large mining company. And he said, Doug, we've been at this for 7 years trying to get a permit. And we're down to 16 questions. And we just threw the towel in. I went back to my board and told them that $500 million we're going to invest in Ontario, invest it in Australia, invest it in the US, and even invest it in Quebec because they don't take as long as what we do. So that's staggering. That's just one phone call I got. Just imagine, we have more critical minerals than anywhere in the entire world that people want. But it's the red tape, the bureaucracy, the duplication, because of all the red tape and overlapping government requirements. And I'll give you an example. And I think both leaders federally agree with this. So we'll do an environmental assessment led by First Nations, Martin Falls and Webequie. They're just an incredible community. So we're doing it. And all of a sudden, the feds come along and they want to duplicate the exact same environmental assessment that we're doing. And so we're working with both. I know, so people are shaking their heads, but this is reality. But thank goodness both leaders from both of the major parties have agreed about, we call it one window. You go to one window, you get your permit, you move things forward, and not rip and ship. Rip and ship is we get the critical minerals out, throw it on a boat, and they refine it. Well, we're going to get the critical minerals out, we're going to refine it here, and we're going to produce it here with Ontario workers. We're cutting the red tape and speeding up approvals, and we're working with the First Nations and northern communities. We have a phenomenal relationship with our First Nations communities, Arrowland First Nations. So Arrowland is right below Webequie and Martin Falls, and it's that 80-kilometer stretch. You have to build that road to get into the Ring of Fire. And what an incredible community that is. They live on diesel. And we can't appreciate when you run out of diesel in the winter, there's a big problem. Now we're going to bring electricity, and they're going to be part of the deal. We're going to be building a community center. We're going to be building an arena. They're going to be able to get better health care. They're going to get food that we take for granted, that we go to a fruit market or one of the big retailers, and we can pick up fresh fruit. They tell me they barely get fruit, and when it comes, it's frozen. So just imagine what they're going through. That's going to change their lives. We're going to get these minerals out of the ground much faster, so we can create new jobs and opportunities across the province, from northern mines to factory floors. We're also doubling down on our $222 billion plan to build, which includes new and upgraded highways, hospitals. We're investing $50 billion. This has never been done before. $50 billion in hospitals. No matter where you live, you're either getting an addition to a hospital, or you're getting a hospital, or sometimes I accidentally announce a hospital before I should, and I get the phone call from the boss because I have it on my list, which I did in Aurelia during the power outage. But anyways, they were all happy. I couldn't understand why they were so happy when I said Aurelia's getting a hospital. So, but they are getting a hospital. We're building transit. We're building the largest transit system in North America. We're building subways. And thank goodness that Eglinton line is finally going. They're training, it's moving. So they're going to get that moving. But all the other 5 lines, they're moving like lightning right now, which is really, really good. We're going to get people out of the cars and they're going to start hopping on transit. And we're also putting the housing enabling infrastructure right here in Ontario. There's a lot of communities that want to build, but they don't have the water pipes. They don't have the sanitary pipes. So we're putting $3 billion to put the infrastructure in until people can build. We're investing in energy infrastructure, and this is one of my favorite areas, including in refurbished nuclear energy. And we're leading the way in the G7 in building small modular reactors, hydroelectricity, and new transmission lines to continue to make Ontario a clean energy superpower on a global scale. So when I have any of our American friends up, the governors or like Governor Cox from Utah just came up a couple of weeks ago. What a gentleman. And every one of them, the first thing they want to do, they want to go to Darlington and see how we're moving forward with the small modular reactors. And we're open to it. And I remind them that American companies are involved in it. General Electric, Tennessee Valley Authority is supporting us. Then we have Hitachi. And then we have some of the smartest nuclear minds anywhere in the world right here in Ontario. You look at the CANDU reactors. I think there's 19 across the country. We have 18 of them, and the other one's over in New Brunswick. But again, we're leading the way when it comes to nuclear. We have requests from Europe. I think $100 billion so far from Europe saying, hey, we need these small modular reactors. We do not want to be relying on Russia anymore, and can you support us? And that's exactly what we're doing. And our government is championing new nation-building pipelines, seaports, airports, highways, and railways to connect all 13 provinces and territories, open new markets for Canadian goods, and reduce our reliance on the U.S. Now, for the last 7 years, I'll take responsibility of that, but every elected official for the last 30 years should take responsibility. So we're captive we're landlocked basically. Yeah, we have one pipeline going from Alberta out west, but just imagine if we had pipelines, again, going out west to hit the Asian market, going out east, right out to the Irving refinery, or make a pit stop in Sarnia to build a refinery, or going north into the Hudson Bay and coming out around that way. We wouldn't have to be reliant on the U.S. and selling them discounted oil. And you always wonder, why is the price so much cheaper down in the U.S.? That's a whole other discussion I'll talk about. And believe it or not, here in Ontario, we don't price it based on the barrel of oil. Like everyone thinks, the barrel of oil is going down. It should be going down. But did you see what the gas companies were doing right before they said they were getting rid of the carbon tax? They brought it up a little bit, then brought it all the way down. And it was about 2 weeks ago, I'm driving by, I saw a liter of gas for $1.10. How does it jump up overnight or in 2 weeks? These are kitchen table issues that frustrate people. It goes from $1.10 and 3 days later it's $1.37. Like, it's broken, but I'm not going to dig deep into it, but there's a reason behind that. This plan is to protect Ontario and to protect Canada. It's about more than just immediate tariff threat that we're seeing from President Trump and all the actions that he's doing. He actually wants to destroy our economy. It's not just words, he wants to do it. He wants to destroy our auto sector. He wants to destroy our manufacturing sector. He wants to try to take over Canada, and I can tell you, Canada is not for sale. We will never, ever be the 51st state, and we have two options. Thank you. I always say you have two options when you face a bully. Either roll over and he runs you over like a cement truck mixer, or we stand up and we fight like we've never fought before. I like the latter. We have to fight like we've never fought before, because I can tell you, with that guy, he doesn't respect weakness. He sees weakness, he'll latch onto you. We need to show him strength. There's a clear sign that here in Canada, we need to make sure we can stand on our own 2 feet no matter what comes our way. That's what our plan is all about. We're going to invest in infrastructure. We're going to invest in our workers and our communities. We're going to cut red tape and attract new jobs and investments to Ontario. And we're going to protect the people, the communities, the companies right here in Ontario, no matter what. No matter what it costs. And I told our finance minister, you know something, we can either start cutting and hurting our economy, or we know we're going to get through it, or spend a few more $1 billion and make that up in the next 2 or 3 years and protect communities. That's exactly what we're going to do. And I told them we're the most prudent fiscal managers this country's ever seen. But there's a time to make sure that we balance, and there's times that we see that it might be a few $1 billion more to protect communities. I just want to thank each and every one of you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you so much, everyone. Great to see you. Thank you. Oh, I got some water over there.
Have you sit over here, Premier.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for taking the time. Obviously, packed room to hear you speak. People want to hear what the Premier of Ontario has to say.
Well, thank you.
Listen, I want to begin with interprovincial trade. It's been raised more than once here. You raised it yourself in this speech. Where are we on that? You know, we've heard Mark Carney through the course of this campaign talking about July the 1st. By then, things will be unlocked.
Yes.
What's your measure of where we are right now?
Well, I think everyone wants it, but there's a lot of protectionism, and that's what's happened over the years, and they want exceptions. And we led the country in getting rid of all exceptions. You know, if an electrician has his license in wherever, BC or Alberta, they should be good enough to practice in Ontario. Or if a doc or a nurse gets their license in wherever, Nova Scotia, they should be able to practice anywhere in the country. And that's exactly what we're doing. So they're coming on board. I'm getting calls every single day, especially after they see Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Had our friend from PEI call up, Saskatchewan, Alberta. They're all going to come on board. And we just can't have any exceptions. And what I mean by that, well, we're going to join, but we have 2 or 3 exceptions. No, we have to open it right up. And as Ontario, the largest market, they should be doing cartwheels to say, hey, we have an opportunity to go after the largest market in the country, and one of the largest markets in North America.
Are you optimistic that by July the 1st, things will be moving?
I'm optimistic we'll meet that target before July the 1st. They're going to come fast and furious as we start moving.
Now, that also brings up this idea of a Team Canada approach.
Yes.
And you've been championing that since day one. You walked up with your jersey saying the Canada is not for sale.
Which a story behind that hat.
With the hat, that's true.
Yeah.
What does the Team Canada approach look like? What could it look like in your vision?
Well, first of all, kind of all singing off the same song sheet. And I fully understand we have a large nation, and the concerns out in the East Coast are different than the West Coast. That might be different in Ontario, but we have to take the united approach. You know, behind closed doors, we can go back and forth and talk about the concerns, but when we step out and speak to the world, because we're speaking to the world now, that we have to be united. It's absolutely critical. My message when I'm out there is, and especially with our Americans, let's build an AMCAN fortress. Let's put a ring around the US and Canada and be the strongest, wealthiest, most prosperous 2 nations in the entire world, to make sure that our foes aren't coming up and trying to take jobs away from us, or even on our military as well. We have to meet our 2% commitment for NATO. It's absolutely critical that we do that and continue working with our American friends, because I truly believe they are our friends. I spent 20 years of my life in our Chicago facility in New Jersey, and I'd be flying all over the US, and I've been calling people that I know, business leaders and again, elected officials. And these are Trump supporters. And they said, you know something, yeah, I voted for Trump, but he should never be attacking his closest friends and allies. So that's the message we have to get out to the American people. And that's why I go on the American outlets to get that message out, that they aren't hearing just one message from President Trump, that we don't need Canada. I feel like jumping through the television when I hear him say we don't need Canada. Well, I guess they don't need our 4.3 million barrels, or over 1.2 billion barrels of oil every single year. I guess the farmers don't need the potash, that 87% of the potash coming from Saskatchewan to keep their farming sector going. Or the uranium that they use that gets refined actually here in Ontario and then gets shipped down to get enriched in the US for their nuclear energy. Or the 50% of the high-grade nickel, and I emphasize high-grade nickel, that they use for their military, their aerospace, and their manufacturing, that comes from Sudbury. And obviously the electricity. You know, we ship them a lot of electricity to New York, to Minnesota, and to Michigan. Not just us. Quebec does it with New York as well, and Manitoba ships it, BC ships it. My message to our American counterparts, I want to ship you more critical minerals. I want to ship you more electricity. I want to build that AMCAN fortress.
You want to build that fortress, but just the other night we heard the US president once again raising the idea of Canada would work well as a state rather than the country that it is. And that follows, you know, the word that after his phone call with Mark Carney before the writ was dropped, that there would be discussions with the next prime minister, which I think some people saw as a light at the end of the tunnel. Then the comment last night. What do you take from that? Where are we right now with the U.S. president? You've been making this argument time and again on U.S. cable news. You've been meeting with Howard Lutnick. How far is that message being received? Is it being received by the White House?
Sometimes I think the cheese slips off the cracker with this guy. He wakes up in the morning. No, but he does. Like, he wakes up in the morning, and even his people around him are not too sure what he's going to do or what he's going to say, and it's pretty scary that, you know, one sentence out of the most powerful person in the world can change markets. You know, yeah, we saw them bounce back a little bit, but it wasn't about protecting Wall Street. It was about protecting Main Street. These people that rely here, right here in Ontario, be it OMERS or the Teachers' Pension Fund or any of the pension funds, you know, they took a hit of a couple $2 billion. And we saw the loss down there. And it's about certainty. And he's created uncertainty around the world. And when you have uncertainty when people come to invest. But the good news is we're seeing investment still rolling into Ontario. Do you want me to jump into the investments or
Absolutely.
down?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Feel free.
So over just the last few years, we've seen over $70 billion of investment come to Ontario. When we took office, I said it was like walking into a bankrupt company. You have to change a lot of things. 300,000 people lost their jobs. Companies were heading down south of the border. Isn't it amazing when Stats Canada came out just last month and said over 1 million more people are working in Ontario today than there was 7 years ago. And it's not about government. We just create the environment and the conditions for folks in this room to thrive and prosper and invest and have confidence. And we've seen over $70 billion of investment, no matter if it's $45 billion in the EV sector or life sciences, over $6 billion, or manufacturing in the tech sector. People don't realize we're leaders in tech around the world. AI was born here at U of T. We have some of the smartest AI people anywhere in the entire world. Like Silicon Valley, they employ about 388,000. Here in Ontario, we're employing over 430,000 people in the tech sector. And you know how the young kids would graduate from U of T or out in Waterloo, they'd hop on the plane and away they go down to Silicon Valley. That's not happening anymore. As a matter of fact, a couple of the companies flew back. And I think more and more people are going to be coming here. But I get a report every single day off the Minister of Economic Development, Vic Fideli. I always say he's our top salesperson. I don't know how he does it. He flies all over the world. He's constantly, he was over in Asia, now he's going over to Europe, and he said he's bringing some deals back. But when I get the update last week, it was $1.2 billion investment from 3 different companies and over 1,700 jobs. So as long as we make sure we create that environment and conditions for companies to come here and invest, then we're all going to thrive. It's when you get the red tape and the regulations, and we've removed over $1.2 billion of red tape and regulations, and there's still more to go. And making sure we keep taxes down. I'll tell you a story. So when we walk in, our budget was and I apologize, folks. I'm a numbers guy. All I need is numbers, because numbers don't lie. And if I start throwing out numbers, I apologize. But here we go. So we walk in to office, and the budget was $150 billion. And it was a mess. I just look at the books, I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And so let's move forward 7 years. 7 years, it's now jumped to $214 billion, a $64 billion increase, and we've never ever raised a tax, and we will never raise a tax. We don't need to raise taxes. Right now, those million people, they're all paying taxes that they weren't paying 7 years ago. And the $70 billion of investment from all these companies coming here, they're paying taxes that we wouldn't have. We've cut the cost of doing business by over $8 billion each and every single year. We've cut taxes with people, no matter if it's the gas tax or as simple as one fare, hopping on the GO train out in Barrie and coming into Toronto, hopping on the TTC. That saves someone $1,700 a year, getting rid of the tolls on the 407, east of the 407. And the list keeps going on and on and on. If we create the environment, the companies will come, they'll pay their taxes. We don't need to increase taxes.
We're quickly running out of time, but I'm going to ask you this question, because the people gathered here are trying to put their minds to how you increase growth in this country. You talk about taxes, you talk about regulation. Where else do you want to see the focus in this group? Or if that is the foci, what do you want to see from the people in this grouping right now as we move forward away from this summit?
I guess my new word, and Michelle knows this, she's smiling. Well, 2 words: faster and speed. It is. I love our public service. They work their backs off. But they're used to, as I was saying in my speech, they're used to a system. And we have to change that system. And even when I talk to them, they're frustrated. They're frustrated, the fact that they have to follow this, follow that. And we can do both. We can do things faster, and we can implement policies and processes. I'm big into something called Lean Six Sigma. We implemented Lean Six Sigma down in our US facilities and in Toronto. Largest companies in the world focus on lean. And we have a lean team here in Ontario. Matter of fact, it's the first government ever to implement, I call it the SWAT team, the black belts that go in there, and they go into every single ministry. And it's not about cutting, it's about driving process, about standardization. That's what we need to do. And just again, just imagine if we could get the mining going, and if we follow all the process, and we work with the federal government, and we lean it down, and we can get permits in less than 24 months, we'd be the wealthiest, richest sub-sovereign nation in the entire world. And we could put that money into things that we need, be it healthcare or education or infrastructure. It's really amazing. If we built the pipeline west, east, and north, we'd be the wealthiest nation in the world. I always say our critical minerals, we have the largest mining show in the world just last month, but with our critical minerals is like Alberta's oil. There's hundreds of billions of dollars sitting up the ring of fire that the entire world needs and wants. And yes, would we ship it down to the US and it's all? Sure we would, but we'd also ship it around the world because they need our critical minerals. It would be absolutely amazing. So those are two of the key areas. We need to continue pouring money into infrastructure. I said $222 billion. We're investing over $28 billion into highways and roads and bridges. We're spending over $70 billion on the largest transit system in North America. And we're going to continue building the hospitals and building $21 billion of schools right now. And that puts people to work. Our skills development fund, we're up to $3 billion. So if any of your companies need to apply for the skills development fund to train the next generation with a skill, and I always say it's the lightest luggage they're ever going to carry. They can go anywhere in the country and utilize that skill. But it all starts with collaboration, working together. You know, there's no secret. When I was born, I was stamped with a C on my forehead as a conservative. But lately, I've been getting, you're a bleeding heart liberal, you're this, you're that. No, I don't care about political stripes. I really don't. I work with the liberal federal government. Excellent. You know, I'd work with the conservative government. I think the world of Olivia Chow, NDP mayor, Wab Kinew. He's my champion out in Manitoba. I said I'm going to give him counseling. He's politically misguided because he sounds like a conservative about the NATO, and I love the guy. He's amazing. So we all have to work together. And honestly, I can't stand political stripes. And don't get me wrong, I'm proud to be the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party. That's what I like doing.
And I hear from a good source you're building a hospital in Orillia.
Yes, that's it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Premier Doug Ford, thank you very much for the time.
I appreciate it. And I want to thank each and every one of you. You play a critical role in moving our country and our province forward. I could not do my job. I'm telling you, I could not do it without folks in this room right now. So thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.